I love hearing people's experience with God and Jesus and their spirituality because everybody's journey is so unique and so different. And whether you believe or don't believe, it's still so fascinating to hear. So today I am very excited because although it was supposed to be a solo episode this week, we are shifting and I have a very special guest on with you today. And I can't wait to have a conversation with her as we just unpack and really dive deep into her passion and her faith journey and all the amazing things that she's been doing over the last couple of years. So today I am having a conversation with Paola and Bello. Let's get into you, and why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself and introduce you.
Okay, so hi guys, I'm Paula and I'm 19. I'm almost turning 20 in July, and I am going into my third year at State. I'm in the business program. I am majoring in HR. And yeah, it's kind of like the little only intro that I've got for myself.
That's awesome. All right, so let's get started on your story. You can do it through the lens of faith or just generally your upbringing. So tell us anything that you feel is important for us to know about your childhood and your upbringing.
Okay. So I was the only kid for 10 years. It's my sister and my sister and I are 10 years apart. So I was the only one for 10 years. And then my parents and I immigrated to Canada when I was 3, almost 4. I was raised in Calgary, so I've been in Calgary my entire life.
Mhm.
And then yeah, and then yeah, that's kind of a little bit of my upbringing. And then once I graduated high school, I went to post-secondary,
Mhm.
and then I joined CCO in my first year, second semester, and that's when I had my conversion. I was always raised Catholic. I was raised Catholic, but I didn't bother to care that much until I don't know. I was one of my best friends. She joined CCO in her first year, first semester, and that's when she had her conversion. And then the next semester, she called me and she's like, "I'm not hanging up until you join CCO." And so I was like, okay, I guess I'm joining CCO. So I joined CCO and it was great. I did discovery. The end discovery is a very, very simple, like kind of intro into like faith, into a very intro faith based like study, I guess.
Mhm.
And I knew most of those things. But it wasn't until I went to Summit, which is what we have. We have it once a month, and we have adoration. And so adoration is when Jesus becomes exposed in the Blessed Sacrament. And yeah, so I went and everything. We had a couple testimonies. I remember sitting there, and I was looking at the crucifix, and I don't know. I I knew that I'd always pick and choose what I wanted to believe in the Catholic faith. So I'd always do one thing and then not do the other thing. I was never fully in. I always had one foot in, one foot out.
Mhm.
And then that night, I was like, I can't keep doing this. I have to pick one identity and stick to it. I
Yeah.
can't, I can't be Catholic one day and then not Catholic the other day.
Right.
So yeah, so then that night I made a decision to put Jesus at the center of my life. And
Mhm.
then that was just over a year ago. And so now, yeah, now it's amazing.
Yeah.
Having Jesus at the center of my life is like, it's the greatest thing I have ever experienced. And it's so peaceful and so joyful. And it's also rocky, but it's really good. Yeah. I guess
Yeah.
that's kind of, yeah.
It's so beautiful. I truly love when people are passionate and fired up about something just like you are with your religion and your beliefs and your spirituality, which I think is so beautiful. And you gave us a lot of information and we're going to dive into little parts of it. And then of course we're going to talk about where you're going next and, the next part of your journey. So, let's go back to high school. So, we kind of jumped over a little bit. Can you tell me what high school was like for you and your experience of growing up?
Okay, high school. I went to St. Francis High School, and that's the biggest high school in Calgary, I believe. And I was really excited to go because I had this perfect high school life that I had imagined in my head.
Mm-hmm.
And you know what? It didn't completely disappoint. I went to high school with one of my close friends, and then I made more friends. I partied. I went to quite a bit of parties. I drank a lot. And I made friends, and yeah, like that. So that was kind of my high school experience. It was exactly what I wanted it to be. I thought I thought that's what high school was all about, was just, getting drunk and just and just yeah. So that was kind of my high school
Mm-hmm.
uh yeah, experience until COVID came, and then I did my last year online. I actually spent a year in Dominican Republic with my mom and my sister,
Mm-hmm.
and I just did that on completely online a little bit. That kind of shifted things, because once I went into grade 12, and I was a little bit, obviously I didn't have any of my friends with me because I wasn't in Canada anymore.
Right.
And so I was basically at home. I was at home a lot, unless I was spending time with my mom. And that's kind of when I was like, okay, that's when I tried to explore the faith thing. And and I joined like a kind of like an online youth group with the school that year. And I did get really involved with them, and I really did enjoy my time with them. But yeah.
Awesome. So, would you find that you had any like major mental health things happen for you in high school and in the transitioning period? Like, I know for me, high school was such a fun and amazing time, but there was also so much mentally going on for me. And even in the transitioning phase of going out of high school and figuring out, like, what am I going to do with the rest of my life? And there's this feeling of like that I felt of feeling so lost. And so I'm curious for you, was there any of that that kind of helped you? That didn't help you, but like that were present for you throughout your journey that maybe weren't all of like the fun, ideal, picture perfect kind of things?
Yeah, a little bit. So when I got to grade 11, things shifted a little bit. Some things were going on
Mhm.
at home, and that's kind of when I just completely just I just started to go. I just kind of like went off the rails almost. I my grades went down a little bit. I stopped caring as much about my grades, and then that's when the party life kind of took a turn for me. That's when I started to get more involved in the party life, and that's when I started to get more drunk and just drinking more, especially at parties. So yeah, so it's kind of when it kind of shifted a little bit. I would say, although I don't know, because the only mental thing that I could think of is just like insecurity, like insecurity wise.
Mhm.
And I was extremely insecure before I entered high school. And then when I entered high school, I was a lot less insecure. I mean, there were still insecurities floating around and stuff, as
Yeah.
always, it never goes away.
Mhm.
Um, but yeah, I was like I became a lot more confident kind of going into high school.
Mhm.
I kind of just kind of let go of like, I don't care what anybody thinks about me anymore
I love
thing.
that.
And so yeah, but then yeah, grade 11 did kind of take a little bit of a turn. And
Mhm.
yeah,
And now being where you are now, if you could tell yourself in grade 11 when things started taking a turn, what would you tell yourself? Like, what would you tell yourself? Is there like a piece of advice? Would you share anything with that younger version of yourself?
I think I'd warn myself.
Oh.
I would give my younger self a warning.
Hmm.
Um, I just tell her to be a little bit more careful
Hmm.
about yeah, about what she does and would have done. Yeah, it's just a warning.
Hmm. That's
Yeah.
awesome. I like that. It's kind of like being able to reflect and say like, oh, there was definitely things that, maybe you're like, oh, that was crazy that I did that. But it's really cool to be able to go back and like almost have a conversation with your younger self, to just really be like, yeah, like this is a tough time in your life. It's okay for me to feel these ways, and kind of guide yourself as an adult. It's kind of interesting to do that as a practice. So once you graduated from high school and you started getting into post secondary, what was that journey like for you?
that journey. So yeah, so like like I mentioned in grade 12, I was involved with youth group and stuff like that. And then I graduated and everything. And then my first year came around, and my first semester, I was extremely busy. I was so busy that I don't think I prayed that entire semester,
Mhm.
because I didn't have my license at that time, so I was taking the bus. And I'd wake up like 6, 6, 6 a.m. to get to school, and I wouldn't come home until like 7.
Wow.
So I was really, really busy, and it's just like I barely saw my friends. And I was just going at it in my first semester. Like I was working really, really hard.
Yeah.
So that was kind of, yeah, so it was just school, school, school,
Right.
and work. I was working a lot that first semester as well. Um,
Hmm.
and then yeah,
Hmm.
but then I was brought into CCO, and then things shifted a lot there.
That's awesome. And so, for people who don't know what CCO is, can you just share what that is? Just like a quick brief, what it is.
Yeah, so CCO is Catholic Christian Outreach. It is it is all around Canada. So it's in most university campuses in Canada.
Mhm.
Um, they actually were founded 30 years ago in Saskatoon, um, by a married couple. Actually, had just gotten married,
Mhm.
and they're like, we need to evangelize somehow. And then CCO came about that, and then now it's just this huge thing around Canada. And yeah, so basically so in Calgary, there's two campuses, actually the biggest, I think, in the country. So MRU and U of C.
Mhm.
And I go to MRU to go and lead my faith study. So I've been a leader for now a semester, and I lead this. So there's 5 faith studies. I lead discovery, and we have retreats every fall semester. We have like 2 balls every year. So one for the fall and winter semester.
Mhm.
We have hangouts like once or twice a month. And then yeah, so it's one big community of people. We're not all Catholic. There are some who are Protestants, there are some who are just Christians.
Christians, yeah.
Sorry, I sometimes I can't pronounce that. And there are some non-believers, but I mean at the end of the day, yes, our faith binds us together, but we're also a community of people. We're like, if you come from where you come from, like we're not nobody's going to judge you over if you believe or if you don't believe.
Mhm.
But at the end of the day, we're just one big community, and we just love each other a lot, and we just like hanging out. um
Mhm.
and yeah, it's like I've met my best friends in CCO, like
That's
my
awesome.
yeah, so
That's beautiful. And I love it's about creating a community where it's like you can believe what you want to believe, but we're going to love you despite that. And
yeah.
you're more than welcome, which is such a beautiful outlook in general. And so before you mentioned like you have always been Catholic, but it kind of was like you weren't really, and then you kind of like stepped into it more. Can you explain a little bit of that a little bit more? And what really, like, I know you mentioned there was that one night that you decided where it was going to change and you were going to go all in, and just bring us a little bit more through that journey and what it's done for your life.
Hey, yeah, so I mean, yeah, I was grateful getting all my sacraments and stuff, but we never, we never really went to mass. We went to mass maybe once a month, if I was lucky.
Hmm.
Um, so I never really, I grew up with my sacraments, but I never really grew up with that faith. And so it was just kind of always there. And then when I finally and so in my grade 12 year, where I was like, I want to grow closer to this, but I just didn't know how, because I'd always like I read my Bible every night, I remember, but it was just I was missing something, and I just didn't know what I was missing. Like I was missing, because I was still like in some sinning, like I was still like committing really bad sins that I shouldn't have been committing. And it was I easily fall into temptation, and I didn't know how to stop it. And so there was that thing missing. Like there was just like surrendering it to God, that and I just couldn't. And everybody kept saying, and I was like, I don't know how to do that, because
Right.
like it sounds so much easier than it is. I mean, sorry, That's not what I want to say. Sorry.
That's
It's
okay.
it's easier said than done because
Yeah.
like you surrender to God, yes, but how do you do that? And it looks different for everybody.
Yeah.
And so I was really frustrated with it because I was like, I don't know what I'm missing because I'm trying to get closer so desperately, and I don't know what I'm missing. And
Mhm.
then I had like this huge drift apart. And then when I finally came back, so when this was my second semester with, and then I was in CCO,
Mhm.
and I was in that one night, and I was really frustrated. I was a little bit frustrated. I was also just I was talking to God, and I was like, what am I missing? Like I was just I need to surrender myself to you, and I don't know how to do it. And I just kind of sat in silence for a while, and I was like, I was bawling, and I was just kind of looking. I was just looking at Jesus, and I was like, all I said was yes, and nothing, and I said yes, and I just kind of sat there, but nothing changed.
Mhm.
So I was so like at the moment I felt nothing.
Right.
Adoration ended. We got up, we went to Boston Pizza like always, and everything was fine.
Yeah.
But I didn't notice the change until maybe 2 weeks later.
Mm.
And then and that one specific temptation I was really struggling with, I didn't think about it for 2 weeks.
Wow.
It's like it never happened. Like just completely never did it again, never thought about it again. It was just completely gone. And I was like, oh my gosh, I had just surrendered that to Jesus. And I was like, wow. Like, and so like it just kind of happened. Like I don't even know, like I can't even give like a how to
Mhm.
or like a or
Yeah.
like step one, step two, because I don't even know how it happened. It's just I allowed Jesus in, and it just
Mhm.
and he took care of it. He took care of the rest.
Mhm.
Um and then yeah, and then ever since, and then from that day on, I had worked toward, creating a good prayer life, the praying in the mornings, praying in the evenings, praying rosaries, going to mass every Sunday. Like I was just now after that, I was trying to just build a good like I was just trying to build a good like
Mhm.
Catholic. Like I was just trying to be a good Catholic at that point, like an actual practicing Catholic. Yeah, and then ever since then, I was always just trying to just build like a good prayer life, and just like
Mhm.
really just how do I obey God? How do I do God's will in my daily life? Like how do I do pleasing things for God and to God? How do I glorify God in my life?
Mhm.
And so that was just kind of it. And then there was a big change in January. I went to this conference, SO it's called. So it was a student leader gathering. It was actually here in Calgary.
Mhm.
And CCO, so a bunch of people from CCO, so people from like Manitoba and like Winnipeg and like all those like different provinces and cities, they all came to Calgary. Most of them came to Calgary. And we were at the Hyatt for 3 days. And we were in that hotel like literally from like the morning to like the evening, and there were a bunch of missionaries doing calls and like doing talks and stuff like that, and there was worship. Like it was truly amazing. But it wasn't until the second day where one of the speakers came, and at that point I was questioning mission. I was like, do I go on mission or do I not go on mission? Because I really wanted to, but I was like I was too scared what my family was going to think of me, because I am the only practicing Catholic in my family.
Mhm.
And I have, and some of them have been um dis like dis they've had their disapprovals with it, because they think going to mass every Sunday is an exaggeration, when it's actually in reality what we're supposed to be doing.
Mhm.
And so I was really scared of what my family was going to think about me, because I was just too scared. And um and so that the sec so again so on the second night, the one of the missionaries, she was talking, and she's like, and she was in tears, she was crying, she's like, I laid my entire life down for Jesus. I sacrificed everything for him, and
Mhm.
I regret nothing. And then at that moment something just broke in me. Like I was like, I want to do this. I need to do this, because we're called to be disciples of Jesus.
Yeah.
I I want to lay down my entire life for Jesus, and I want to go wherever he wants me to go. And so then that night, sorry.
No, it's okay.
that night we had, so after she ended there, so CCO has like hundreds of missionaries, not hundreds, maybe 100 missionaries,
Mhm.
and they all got in pairs and they were praying over people. So I got in line to get prayed over, and I got prayed over, and she's like, what? And then one of them, she was like, what is your fear? And I was like, I'm too scared what my family's gonna think of me. And she just prayed over me, and I came out, and I was like, this feeling of just complete freedom. I was like, I don't care what they think about me anymore. Like I don't like, and I was so afraid of, like, I had this perfect future in my head too. Like I was like, I'm gonna graduate school, I'm gonna get a good job, I'll get married, there'll be a couple kids. Like I had this future planned out, and I didn't want to let it go. I didn't want to let it go for Jesus. And that night I realized that I have to let go of that life. I have to let go of the life I thought I wanted, and get and live the life that Jesus wants me to live.
Mm.
And so yeah, so that night I was just like, I'm not afraid. I'm not afraid of, like, of just, and that night I was like, I want to do ministry work.
Mhm.
I want to do full-time ministry work. Like I don't, like, screw a job, or I need to be out there in the world evangelizing. I need to be out there in the world telling people that, showing people that this is Jesus and this is what Jesus can do for you.
Mhm.
And like I couldn't, and I knew I wouldn't be able to live myself if I didn't do that for people. If I didn't give people the opportunity to get to know Jesus and to allow Jesus in their lives. And so that was kind of the shift. And then after that, I applied for mission to go to Uganda. I got accepted after I thought I wasn't. I didn't think I was going to get accepted, but that's a whole other story.
Yeah.
Um, and then I got accepted to go to Uganda, and um, yeah, basically that was really long. Sorry.
No, no, it's great. It's awesome. And I love that you talk about this piece that you feel was missing at the beginning. You were talking about that piece that you felt like was missing, and then you just fully went all in, which is so beautiful. And I think there's something so beautiful about religion. And in your case, it's about Christianity, or sorry, Catholic. Not, well, it is Christianity too.
Yeah, under the
But
umbrella.
under the umbrella, but I love hearing people's experience with God and Jesus and their spirituality, because everybody's journey is so unique and so different. And whether you believe or don't believe, it's still so fascinating to hear people's experience and what it has done for their lives, and what it keeps elevating, and whether that leads you to serve and with kindness and whatever that means for you. It's so beautiful, and watching you get emotional was just, it was so beautiful, because you can feel the authentic love that you feel, that you have towards this thing that you love, which is so beautiful. It's amazing. So there's one thing I wanted to ask you, because I remember we were talking about this a little bit before. Because the way that we actually met was, she was reaching out to people to see if she'd get any sponsors, and she reached out to my mom, and my mom shared this with me, and I was like, oh my gosh, how can we fundraise and get you to mission? Because I have been on missions through different religions. I went on a Mennonite mission and a Christian mission, and I loved them. Like, they were so pivotal for who I am and shaped who I am. And I hope that it shapes who you are too. But I just think going on missions and going and serving a country that is in need is so beautiful. It's such a beautiful thing to do. So I was like, okay, let's get you going. How can we do this? I have a jewelry company. We're like, okay, let's get some things flowing so we can raise you some money. But where I was going with that, kind of like a long way to get there, is we were talking a little bit as we were putting this jewelry together, and it was such a beautiful conversation. And you said something about the way your relationships changed in your life. So would you be willing to share that with us?
Yeah, I can share a little bit about that. Okay, so my parents got divorced when I was 13, and my dad and I struggled a lot in our relationship. I didn't make things any easier for him either. I was very difficult to deal with. Still
Mhm.
sometimes am.
Yeah.
And um and so we didn't have a good relationship, not really. I mean, we were fighting a lot. I never talked to him. I never opened up myself to him, and it was like, it sucked. And then, sorry, I hate crying.
Hey, it's okay. Crying is okay.
And then, yeah, so I had, and then, so one thing I didn't realize until my conversion was that I always thought I was a huge disappointment to my dad, and just, I always thought that my dad and I never said I love you to each other ever, like, especially growing up. And so again, I didn't make anything easier for him, but we
Mhm.
never said I love you to each other. And that sucked. And so when I had my conversion, I didn't realize that how the father figure is so important in a family. And I didn't realize how much it affected my relationship with God, because I came to God and I thought God didn't love me. And I thought he was disappointed me. All the things I thought my dad was, all the things my dad thought I was, I thought God was to me.
Mhm.
And so that sucked. And so that's also why I just pushed. That's also why in my first semester I just pushed him far away, because I thought, how could he love me? And so when I had my conversion, my relationship was healed with God, pretty quickly. And
Mhm.
then my relationship with my dad started to heal. We it happened, it actually happened really quickly. My dad and I just became closer almost instantly.
Mhm.
And so, and then I was able, and then so God really did mend that relationship with my dad. Even though my dad won't ever admit it that it was,
Mhm.
but I will admit it for him.
Mhm.
God did a lot of work in our relationship, and I think he also did a lot of work in us individually.
Mhm.
um, because a lot of things individual, I mean, obviously, again, none of us were helping the relationship, and
Right.
so a lot of work happened in us individually, and a lot of work happened in the relationship itself, and it was just,
Mhm.
and now my dad and I are, oh my gosh, we're practically inseparable. So
Awesome.
I I love him so much, and I don't know what I'd do without him. So sorry.
Oh, that's so beautiful. No, don't apologize. It's so beautiful. We can feel your love through those tears. Like each and every one, we can feel the love that you have for your dad now. And I think that it's so beautiful. Was there anything specifically that you did in conversation, in communicating with him, or was it just a full kind of shift that you almost can't even explain?
It was just a shift. Like, it wasn't like, I don't think we were active. Like, it wasn't like I wasn't actively trying to change anything or improve our relationship. It just happened pretty slowly. Like, just pretty slowly, until I was like, okay, like, our relationship is different now. Like, we to work. I mean, we still bicker a lot. We fight a lot still, but
Yeah.
it's the different type of fighting versus, like, it's just a different type of fighting. Like, it's bickering sometimes, or sometimes it's just disagreements, but it's not like, but we're always able to just communicate. And anyways, sorry, I'm getting off topic.
No problem.
Uh, yeah, no, we just, it was just a shift. It wasn't like I wasn't trying to fix anything. It just kind of happened over time. And by over time, I mean, like, over maybe 2 3 months.
Yeah.
It just kind of happened, and then we were just everything was just better. Everything was okay.
Mhm.
Uh, yeah,
That's awesome. That's so beautiful. And it's so cool when we set intentions, how things shift.
yeah,
There's an intention that I want, and it doesn't have to be specific. It's more just general of like my relationship with my family. If it was better, that would be amazing. And it's setting that intention and aligning with it and then asking God in your case for that guidance almost like without asking for it, if that makes sense. Like it was like the next thing that needed to be mended, which is so beautiful. So thank you so much for sharing and opening about that and just communicating that, it's possible to mend relationships. And I feel like even in my life, it's like it's so easy to feel like we've disappointed people in our lives. And now we turn into this like we don't feel loved as much as maybe we want to. It's very easy for that to happen, but once things start to shift and change, which is possible, beautiful things happen. Beautiful things happen, and in both parties, right? Like it's a mutual, beautiful thing that arises. So thank you so much for sharing that. So before we wrap up this episode, I have a couple questions that I ask every guest. Is there anything else you want to share with the audience? And yeah, anything you want to share?
Um, no.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I'm very excited for your next step. I mean, again, you've talked about how it kind of all just came together really quickly. I mean, you're going to a mission trip in a month, a little bit of like
Yeah, basically, yeah, just
basically a month and 12 days or something.
yeah, exactly.
Yeah, so it's so exciting that all of this exciting things are happening for you. So yeah, the fundraiser, I mean, you can check out our social medias for a little bit more information on that. But let's roll into the four final questions that I ask every guest. And are you ready?
Yes.
Okay, first one. What is the best piece of advice you've received?
Oh my gosh. I don't know. When I was doing spiritual direction with Father Christina, we were talking about a couple of things, and he said you can't control your emotions and what you feel. And I was like, okay, okay. Um, that doesn't. I know that's weird. So I know something. I know it's weird to say. But it's just. I mean, it's weird. It's weird when you don't have the context. But I'd always want. I'm a control freak.
Yeah,
And so, and so when I get upset or frustrated, I get more upset or frustrated because I don't want to be upset or frustrated.
right.
And so Father Christino, he told me it's okay. Like, you don't control how you feel or what you feel. And so it's like, it's okay. It's like, you don't have to beat yourself up over it. You
Mm,
can't control how you feel.
mm.
But you can control what you do with it. And so yeah, I guess that's the best advice I've ever received.
Nice. Okay. Now, flip side, what is the worst advice you've received?
Oh my gosh, the worst advice.
These are hard ones. These are harder questions.
I think of anything. Okay, the worst. I've never received bad advice. Um, go with the flow. I hate when people say that to me. Go with the flow. No, I don't
That's
like that advice.
that's not your favorite piece of
No,
advice.
no.
Awesome. Okay, next question. If you could give this chapter of your life a title, what would that be?
To be young and Catholic, because I think it's so much fun, and I think our faith journey has so many different chapters. And
Mhm.
right now, my season and my chapter is just young. I'm I'm still in school, and I'm gonna be in school for the next 2 years.
Yeah,
And there's so much to learn and to grow, and there's so much to grow in my faith. And there's just so much, and there's just so much left to do. So
yeah.
just to be young and Catholic, and just have fun.
I love it. Awesome. Okay, next question is if you could give your younger self a piece of advice, what would that be? Or you can think of like younger generation, but
Mhm.
typically, like if you could tell your younger self something in any realm, like your insecurities or anything, whatever you want it to be.
Okay, I'm gonna go very cliche. I'm just gonna say, stop caring what other people think, and just do it. Like, just have fun, and just do it. Like, there's no reason to be so. There's no reason to walk on eggshells.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I guess that would be the only piece
Yeah,
of
be
like,
yourself and don't care what everyone else thinks. That's
yeah.
awesome. Okay, last question. I lied to you. I said four, it was actually five. What are you grateful for? I love to end the interviews in a state of gratitude. So for anyone listening to this, it's a great time to ask yourself as well what you're grateful for. But right now we're gonna ask you first. So what are you grateful for?
Everything. I don't have a specific thing because I have a really good life,
Mhm.
and I have amazing people in my life, and I the thing my most treasured thing is my relationship with God. And so that, I mean, that would always be number one. So if I had to pick something, it'd be a relationship with God. But I'm grateful for everything in my life. I can't there's nothing I can complain about because I have a really, really good life.
That's beautiful.
Amazing.
Awesome.
So yeah.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for being so vulnerable and opening up and sharing about your journey. Again, we talked a little bit about a fundraiser that we're doing. So again, you can check out our social medias for that. Everything is going to be in the episode notes below. And if you enjoyed this conversation or found that this conversation was helpful, or you thought of somebody who might really benefit from it, screenshot this episode, post it to your story, send it to someone if you felt like it moved you or it could help other people, because that is how we are going to continue to grow and evolve and learn as humans. So thank you so much for joining me today, Paola. That was amazing.
Thank you.